Birds, you think, are sophisticated enough, especially the corvids, I take it, to have these self-models. And I think corvids pass like this mirror test where they can recognize themselves in a mirror, and without knowing the details myself, I assume that this has something to do, some connection to a self-model. But what I was going to ask is where you think chicken, turkey, these sorts of food birds fall into the spectrum, and then why it is that you feel a more personal question, why does you feel comfortable eating them?
So let me start with the mirror test. Mirror test is often used as a test of self-awareness. I'm profoundly skeptical of it. It may be true. It may be a good way to test in some circumstances, but the problem is it also just tests visual spatial ability. So even someone who knows all about themselves, if they're not familiar with the visual spatial properties of a mirror, that would be really confusing, and they wouldn't be passing that test. And I think you can, if you take a turtle and you irritate it, it'll scratch itself where you're irritating it with its flipper.
Shrimp will do that too.
Shrimp will do that. This is very simple. The mirror test is just a test of whether they can use complex visual information to do the same thing, right? So I'm very skeptical that that's really a philosophically valid, tight test of self-concept. So we start with that. But corvids also pass false belief theory of mind tests. And so they have this really rich concept of other agents and what other agents are thinking and knowing. I think birds are typically very social animals. I mean, not all species, but many species are hugely social. They probably have enormous social intelligence. They probably have theory of mind. They probably have built into them these, reflexive first-order concepts of mind and experience and self and so on. I think that's very likely. I think probably all birds have this in them. And then, you have some birds are more intelligent than others, but that's, as we've said, a little bit independent of the question of whether they have this experiential component. Why do I eat chickens? I just do. I'm a carnivore. I don't eat cows and pigs and so on.
You don't?
I don't for three reasons. One, it's less healthy for me. Two, it's less healthy for the world because, environmentalism. I mean, it's a very enormous drain on the environment to grow and deal with cows. And number three, I actually am not that fond of it.
Okay.
But chicken I eat. And I've tried to go vegetarian. It just didn't work nutritionally. It was really hard to do. And I didn't really feel very physically comfortable. It's like it impacted my energy levels and so on. So I gave it up. I eat chicken. I think chicken...
Seafood too, I take it?
Yeah, occasionally. I'm not... probably most of the meat I eat is chicken. Like 95% of it. So, and I don't eat that much of it, actually. But, I think like most people, I'm, in terms of my own personal behavior, very morally contradictory and full of inconsistencies. And you could argue that that's one of them. I think they have what we would think of as a type of consciousness.
Something that just came to mind that you might find interesting is I read this very lengthy review of whether or not creatures such as shrimp, lobsters, crabs, all the way up to octopuses are conscious. And this was done by a panel of, there were some philosophers, some neuroscientists, some animal welfare people, and a major point of this was setting regulations in the UK. And one of the tests they were doing to determine whether or not creatures were conscious was they would administer an irritant to them somewhere. And if they scratched or indicated what we would think of as discomfort at this irritant, this was a mark toward consciousness, which is interesting because again, this is a conflict. It's not that complex behavior cannot be correlated with consciousness, but it is a conflation that it equates to consciousness.
Yeah, totally. It's yeah. I mean, these panels remind me of panels of religious scholars deciding how many angels dance on the head of the pin,
Right.
and they get very serious about it. And I think it's totally out to lunch.
Okay, the last two. Well, actually, before I ask about the last two animals, if you had to put a number on it from 0 to 1, credence that octopuses are sufficiently conscious as to be capable of suffering, where would you put that?
Well, the problem is I lack information.
I know, I get that you aren't an expert on this. You lack tons of information, but
So logically, then I would put it at 0.5 because I have no idea.
But you wouldn't put it at 0.5 about, I don't know, some insect that we've never discovered before, something like that.
An insect I would put very low.
Right. But octopuses, you're sufficiently, and you don't know enough. Yeah, okay. The 0.5. Okay. I'm glad that that's enough for me to not eat octopuses. But then I don't eat it. I used to, because I've been to Japan too, and they have really good octopus there. Yeah.
But I stopped partly for that reason. I was like, oh, this poor thing.
Is it the same for squid?
I think squid and octopus are really similar.
Okay. Because squid don't seem to have as sophisticated behavior as octopuses. True. I don't know how that would affect your credence, though, in their consciousness.
I mean, they're less smart for sure.